Ja Morant is one of the best players in the NBA.
Round series, Morant, right back, Morant.
But he has a serious problem.
Memphis Grizzlies star Ja Morant has been suspended for a second time after once again appearing to flash a gun on social media.
I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist. I don't pretend to be one, but when the NBA comes out and says they are worried about Ja's life in the next 5 years, it's important for the public to fully understand the situation.
And I can tell you that people within the NBA community are not just concerned about Ja Morant playing basketball. They're concerned about whether or not he's going to be alive in 5 years.
Ja deserves criticism. No one should be defending his actions, but he also needs compassion and more help than he is currently getting. The reason he isn't receiving much compassion is because the public doesn't have the full story. Looking at the situation from the outside in, my theory is that Ja Morant is suffering from an adrenaline addiction, and he's not the only professional athlete with this problem. A person who has an adrenaline addiction is someone who enjoys taking part in activities that trigger the release of epinephrine, which is commonly known as an adrenaline rush. These activities might be extreme sports like snowboarding, motorcycle riding, or skydiving. Does this sound like Ja Morant at all? Well, not exactly. Because while the clinical-ish assessment of adrenaline addiction is mostly limited to extreme sports like skydiving or snowboarding, the affliction should also include playing professional sports. There's no explanation other than adrenaline addiction to describe him throwing away the opportunity of generational money, fame, the ability to take care of his community, and the ability to play basketball as a career. Ja Morant comes from a loving two-parent household, has had their support in his pursuit of his goals becoming an NBA player, and overall lived a challenging but blessed life. He signed a lucrative rookie deal worth just under $40 million in 2019, and in 2022, he signed a 5-year extension worth up to $231 million. Why would he allegedly point a gun at members of the Indiana Pacers, threaten a teenager, flash a gun on social media not once, but twice, and completely betray Adam Silver's trust after he assured him he was sorry for his actions? Because these are all classic signs of addiction. Do something because of your addiction, say you're sorry, but you aren't actually, blame someone else, and then the cycle repeats until someone helps the person who needs it.
This kid is crying out for help, man. I want to know where the adults in the room, like his dad, too busy walking around in shades, would tell him, dude, you don't wear shades indoors. Take your damn shades off and go check on your son.
To fully understand this situation, all you have to do is look at other past athletes. When these athletes play in a professional sport, the rush is like no other. But the rush always comes to an end. And then what? What do they do to not only occupy their time outside of their sport, but also to take care of their ailing bodies? They try to cut loose. But for some, much of what they do outside of their sport isn't enough. A year after becoming the youngest quarterback to lead a team to a Super Bowl win, Ben Roethlisberger got on a motorcycle without a helmet and proceeded to break his jaw and nose. Why would a guy on top of the world, a professional quarterback, get on something medical professionals call a donor cycle? What about Josh Gordon? He was an all-time talent. At one point, he looked like he could be the best receiver in the NFL, but he couldn't.
Stay off the weed.
Likely a combination of the absence of game adrenaline and pain incurred from playing football. What some may fail to realize is that Stephen A. Smith isn't disparaging people who partake in the devil's lettuce, as long as they use it legally. Stephen A. Smith is criticizing athletes who can't stop behavior that is taking money out of the athlete's pocket. If a person can't stop a negative behavior when money is on the line, especially after all of the hard work and suffering that person had to endure to get to this point, to make this money, that person needs serious help.
Because I want you to succeed.
Yeah.
I'm not happy that you're struggling.
Right.
I'm not happy that you're failing. I'm like, wait a minute, do what you're supposed to do. Then venture out. As Denzel once said to me, do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do.
Yeah. Right.
That's what it's all about. And that's the kind of message that I think we all should be preaching collectively.
It's why whenever people make fun of Kyler Murray for playing video games, I laugh, because the jokes are funny, and it does seem a little ridiculous that a player would rather focus on Call of Duty than his job of being a professional football player. But when you take a moment and you realize how other events have played out for other athletes, you realize you have to keep everything in perspective. Playing video games is super low on the totem pole of negative actions an athlete could be participating in off the field. Kyler is looking for an escape from the constant stress of being chased by dudes over 300 pounds. But not completely. He still wants a little bit of that rush, and video games provide that for him. There are countless other examples of athletes unable to resist adrenaline-filled activities, either with or without other substances. José Fernández was one of the best pitchers in baseball. He used substances while driving a boat at high speeds in a reckless manner, and it ended up in the death of 3 people. After retiring, Roy Halladay, a Hall of Fame pitcher, was piloting a plane alone. He was also on substances and ended up tragically passing away when the plane crashed after he performed aggressive low-altitude maneuvers. We frequently see football players get in trouble for speeding, or the countless suspensions for NFL players for gambling when the rules are clear. Lamar Odom has been open about his struggles with substance abuse and even talked about how Kobe Bryant helped get him out of his gambling debt.
So make a long story short, I'm in a hole. Like, I can't get myself out of it. I don't got the money to pay it.
So he got you out of your gambling hole?
Facts.
How deep were you in?
Really deep.
Can you give us the number? North of 6 figures?
Yeah.
Gets to the point where you're 6 figures in the hole.
I ain't got nobody to call but Kobe Bryant.
Delonte West's story is pretty well known. He got help but wasn't able to keep himself completely in check, because once someone is an addict, they are always an addict. You never get rid of it. It's a never-ending battle. You have to win every day. You can get to a point where you're a recovering addict, but one slip is all it takes. My belief is that Ja Morant will struggle while serving his 25-game suspension. When people are breaking in addiction, one of the things they can do is stay busy. Ja is going to have tons of free time away from team facilities, games, and teammates. Ja does need punishment for his actions, but the NBA should change their policy about players being at games when suspended. Keeping someone from their support system won't help the situation. I know it can be easy to not care about someone who is rich or someone who is moving towards throwing away what they have, but Ja Morant getting help could be vital for someone you love or even yourself. The more educated people are on the subject, the more likely people can see a situation for what it is and get someone who needs help. If this video was purely criticism, it would be a disservice. I'll offer what I believe to be a solution. It's actually pretty simple in principle. Ja Morant needs a mentor and a hobby. He needs someone to help him that isn't benefiting from his success. Basically, Ja Morant needs people around him that aren't yes men willing to tell him what he wants to hear. He needs someone in his circle to tell him what he needs to hear. I think that person is Vin Baker. As I was researching for this video, I stumbled upon this article written in the LA Times talking about Vin Baker's success, struggle, and then success once again. Vin Baker's addiction might not be exactly the same as what Ja Morant is going through, but Vin has a comprehensive understanding of what addiction looks, feels, and is actually like. He knows what it's like to fight back, to be at your lowest and still manage to succeed. I don't want to put pressure on Vin to do something he isn't comfortable with, but reading the LA Times article, it's clear that Vin will take on the responsibility and make time for someone in need. If Vin can be there for Ja, he can help prevent Ja from reaching rock bottom. Ja also needs a hobby outside of the game, something that challenges him outside of basketball and isn't easy. Maybe it's video games like Kyler Murray, maybe it's bowling or a podcast like Mookie Betts, perhaps it's a business venture. Whatever it is, Ja needs something to keep him steady when the rush of the NBA isn't available to him. If he doesn't make a change and get more help than what he has already received, he's going to be right back in this precarious position. And I don't want that for him. And neither should you. Thank you for your time.